Good morning, 8th grade geometry scholars. This is an overview for ELT. Today you are still plotting points as your kind of warm-up into the math. Part 2, you're solving equations. So remember, step 1, distribute to get rid of parentheses. So I have negative 7p. 7 times 6 is positive 42p. 7 times negative 8 is negative 56. Equals 22 minus 4p. The next thing I do is look for any like terms. I have some like terms here and here. That would be 5p minus 56 equals 22 minus 4p. Okay, so now I'm going to add my variables to both sides. This is 0, and then 35p plus 4p is 39p. Minus 56 equals 22. So with my equation, I'm going to add 56 to both sides. 39p equals 78. Divide by 39 on each side. P should equal 2. So that's kind of your algebra refresher for second. And then you get into your geometry objective, which is determining if two triangles are congruent. If they are, you must state how you know. So if you write that they're congruent, you must state how you know. So there are a couple different ways to tell if a triangle is congruent. If triangles have all the same sides, we would call that they're congruent because of side, side, side. Triangles could also be congruent because of side, angle, side. They could also be congruent because of angle, side, angle. And then for right triangles, there's this thing called hypotenuse, leg. So basically, if two triangles have all the sides the same, well, they're going to be exactly the same. They're going to be congruent. If two triangles have two sides that are the same and an angle in common, they're also going to be congruent. If two triangles have two angles that measure the same and a side that's the same, they're also going to be congruent. And then if two right triangles have the same length hypotenuse and a leg or a side that's the same, they're also going to be congruent. So I look at these two triangles. This side is congruent to this side. And by congruent, guys, remember, it just means we're the same length. This angle is congruent to this angle because they have the same notation on the angles. They have the same two dashes on the sides. That's how I know that these two are congruent as well as these angles. Now, the third side, they literally have this side in common. So this side is the same for both triangles. So these triangles have a side, an angle, and a side in common. So you would say, yes, they're congruent because of side, angle, side. Number 9 is pretty much the same thing. I have two triangles right here. This side is congruent to this side. This side is congruent to this side. And then I have a right angle here. This angle is vertical or directly across from this angle. So whenever that happens, whenever I have two lines making an X, the angle in the middle are congruent. So again, I have a side, an angle, and a side in common. So you would say, yes, they are congruent, side, angle, side. Okay, now looking at this one, there are two angles that are congruent. Or these two angles are congruent. These two sides are congruent. And then I know, I have intersecting lines again. So these two angles are also the same. So this time we would say these two triangles are congruent, angle, side, angle. Looking at number 11, this side is congruent to this side is congruent to this side. They're intersecting lines, so these angles in the middle are congruent. So these triangles, sorry, I can't talk right now, are also congruent, side, angle, side. They have a side, an angle, and another side in common. Number 12. We have these two sides are congruent, are the same. These two sides are congruent. And then this side, they literally share, so we know that's in common. So all three sides of the triangles are the same. They are congruent, side, side, side. For number 13, we know that this side and this side are congruent, this side and this side are congruent. We don't know any of the angles though, so at this point we don't have enough information really to tell us if the triangles are congruent or not. So you can go ahead and keep working, just do your best. Start with the ones or the triangles you know. And then if you have any questions, please ask your teacher. Thank you. Hope you have a wonderful weekend, guys. Bye-bye.